substance addiction, alcohol, my behavioural addictions, work, relationships, collecting, materialism, all the good things a consumer is, I suppose, ought to do, which is to keep on collecting. And ad nauseum, to the point where I had stuff stuffed in the gunnels, as it were, in my life and in my head. I was always trying to fix something inside me. I didn't know quite what it was. I had a gap, a feeling of emptiness, and of course what I used most of all over the years, because it was the right thing to do, I thought, because that's what blokes did, was drink like a man. And I did, and then I got dependent, and then I became an addict. So how does that happen? Well, I guess if we keep on doing the same thing over and over again, it's a madness, and we get the same result. So for me, drinking, and hoping that it would solve my problems. So what did I find after a long period of time? Well, I guess I worked as hard as I could, collected all the things I could, had all the behavioural stuff, and still was trying to fix this emptiness, emotional emptiness or a spiritual emptiness, whatever it is. In the moment, always feeling alone in some way or other, fearful of being found out or not being good enough. So what an insanity that is. How do we ever get into a state like that? Well, for me, and I guess for a lot of people, we don't know what is wrong with us from when we start our drinking careers. But if it changes the way we feel, and we prefer the way we feel with the drink inside us, it's probably telling us something very fundamental, that maybe we just don't understand what the starting point is, that is, in how to live one day, be sober, and be happy. So it's taken a long time for me to understand it's not only okay to be happy on a daily basis, it's okay to be sad as well, as long as it's within a normal range of attitude, behaviour, and an understanding about life. So for me, I think I was in deficit when I first came into the world. The chemistry set in the head didn't quite work as well as maybe it ought to, but I cannot say with any certainty. What I do know these days is that I need tend to my emotional spiritual well-being by being aware of what will make me ill and backing the addiction or the problem, and that is to take a drink. So one day at a time I don't. And if I don't drink a day at a time, I can deal with my behavioural stuff around obsession and trying to fix myself by getting something else or adding to a collection of materialistic things which I just don't need. And when I've got them, what do I do with them? I put them in a drawer and forget them. So addiction comes in many ways, and it's probably underlying called self-harm. So from conviviality to self-harm, it took a long time to realise what was going on for me. So ignorance was not bliss. And then when it got really out of hand, about 10 years ago, I had no choice. Addicted, 24/7, needing to top up, losing everything, and finding myself in the gutter, looking up at the world and judging it as if it was the world's fault that I was the way I was. And of course it's not. It's not. So these days, one day at a time, I try to keep sober and be a part of life, so I can be loved, love others, and have something useful to do. So family, community, professionals help me get sober, and then as part of the sobering up process and remaining sober, a fellowship has helped me for several years, and that fellowship is Alcoholics Anonymous. So AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is the bedrock of my sobriety, and providing I keep sober, lean on fellowship, talk to my sponsor when I need to, and understand there are 12 steps of action I can take on a daily basis, whatever is appropriate to life going on, to keep me in a place of understanding what is possible and what is not possible. So it all sounds very complicated, but it's very, very simple. Don't drink, go to meetings of AA, and practice the 12-step program. And it takes a little while to get that into some sort of semblance of understanding. It's not about thinking our way through this, it's about our emotional and spiritual well-being, that we understand what is possible and what is not possible, and making the best of what is. So what is AA and how does it help me? This is the preamble she shared. I've got it on a card here. Sometimes I recite it, but I believe it's better read as it is, because then I'm not just reciting it, I'm feeling it. So, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So for me it's important. Only requirement for being in AA, a desire to stop drinking. There's nothing else. Don't have to pay for anything. Just go along, see what it's like. And it's about helping other people get to sobriety as well. So we give it away to keep it. And the gift is that everybody who goes to AA is unique, authentic in their outlook and on their path of life, and remains so, unique, authentic on their path of life. But we have a similarity, and that is sobriety suits us best. Probably didn't suit us originally or at the beginning, but we learn how to be sober. And that's the greatest gift, because it means we're living in the moment, hopefully, not being too disturbed by our past, but learning from it, and not too much thinking about the future or wondering about the future. Living in the moment with an open mind, opening our choices of what is possible now. And I share literature of AA in my videos, this one, Daily Reflections in particular, because it covers each step of the programme each month. So February is all about step 2, came to believe a higher power could restore us to sanity. And it says here, filling the void, February 3rd. We needed to ask ourselves but one short question: do I now believe, or am I willing to believe, that there is a higher power, there is a power greater than myself? As soon as any man can say that he does believe, or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure him that he is on his way. And that higher power is what you choose, and it can be a group of people, it can be wisdom learned from other people, it can be anything which is applicable to one individual, that is you. And he goes on to say, I was always fascinated with the study of scientific principles. I was emotionally and physically distant from people while I pursued absolute knowledge. God and spirituality were meaningless academic exercises. I was a modern man of science. Knowledge was my higher power. Given the right set of equations, life was merely another problem to solve. Yet my inner self was dying from my outer man's solution to life's problems. And the solution was alcohol. In other words, for me, I was also codependent on alcohol. It had power over me. In spite of my intelligence, alcohol became my higher power. It was through the unconditional love which emanated from AA people and meetings that I was able to discard alcohol as my higher power. The great void was filled. I was no longer lonely and apart from life. I had found a true power greater than myself. I had found God's love, as you choose to believe God or not believe God, or just believe in good conscience. There is only one equation which really matters to me now. And it says here, God is in AA. And for me, God works through people. God is truth, as Gandhi said. It's not my truth, it's the absolute truth of the universe. And God is love. And in fellowship we find love. How to love, how to be loved, and how to be useful again. So, can do, can't do, the acceptance of now. That serenity prayer helps me on a daily basis. And it's either to the God of your understanding or your good conscience or your higher power. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference for me is just for today. My video is all about recovery from either addiction to substance or behaviour. My substance over 35 years, alcohol. Don't know when I became an addict, probably from the first drink when it took the edge off in some way and changed my feelings and altered my behaviour to be more relaxed. And also my behaviour over those 35 years, always striving for perfection, because I knew that's what you wanted, and realising I could never be perfect. So the conundrum, and hence the circle round and round. It's like having one foot nailed to the floor and just going round and round in circles. Insane drinking, always trying to be perfect. No such thing, never happened, never perfect. So why do I do these videos? To share experience, strength and hope about recovery from either addiction to, substance or behaviour. And I go to the Fellowship of AA for my main sustenance and how to keep well, which is simply wisdom to use in this one day of now. So what is AA all about? It's about one day being sober. And at meetings the preamble is shared, just explaining what AA can do or cannot do. And I share it here because it puts me back into the moment of now and slows my thinking and feeling into what I'm doing right now. Not the history, not the future, just being in the now. And it goes like this, the preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes, and it certainly doesn't endorse my videos. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I noticed a comment way back months ago on one video, which always people in AA show concern about the suggestions, the things we use on a daily basis to make life work. And if we get very, very strict about everything, they're not suggestions, they're instructions or rules or obligations. And the only obligation I have really is to try and stay sober today. And AA helps me greatly, and it provides me with a place where I can tell my truth, a sort of sanctuary, if you like, where I can express my inner self and not feel silly or stupid. As it is, what it does for me, AA is immeasurable, and it keeps me sober one day at a time. And I use the literature in these videos just to illustrate what is AA about, and what is the program of 12 steps about, and how does AA really affect a person's life. So for me it works. It works on a daily basis, sometimes really well, and sometimes, because I'm so distracted or down or depressed, it hardly works at all. But what it does, it keeps me sober, keeps me coming back and in the game of life. And I'm doing the steps of AA one a month, and as it's now February, it's step 2. I covered, admitting I was powerless over alcohol, that my life had become unmanageable with drink. And this month it's all about came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And I'm just reading out of this book, the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, which is the backbone and foundation of all my recovery, I guess, apart from one essential ingredient, and that is human beings. Human beings who have an understanding of how to live in the day. And as to metaphysical or astral plane intervention, the higher power, I'll be talking about that pretty much all of the month. But in step 2, there's a paragraph at the beginning, which is from the same book. It's very simple. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. The moment they read step 2, most newcomers are confronted with a dilemma, sometimes a serious one. How often have we heard them cry out, "Look what you've done to us. You've convinced us that we are alcoholics and that our lives are unmanageable. Having reduced us to a state of absolute helplessness, you now declare that none but a higher power can remove our obsession." Some of us won't believe in God, others can't believe in God, and still others who do believe that God exists have no faith whatever He will perform this miracle. Yes, you've got it over a barrel all right, but where do we go from here? And that's the first paragraph of step 2 in the reading, if you like. And I've been confused about higher powers all my life. I thought for a long time my father was my higher power, but he just turned out to be an ordinary human being. And my mother, and people I knew, teachers, managers, you name it. I had higher powers coming out of my ears. And the truth is, they were neither bigger or smaller than me, but I did hold them in esteem and put them on pedestals, so maybe I could shoot them down later when my life turned out to be not as good as it did. So, where am I with higher power today? Well, you know, my higher power is truth. simply truth, something which I can evade at every twist and turn when life isn't going my way. So, as Gandhi said, God is truth. And it's not for me to suggest what your God or your higher power may be, it's for you to find your own. Truth works really well for me, and the anonymity of the fellowship provides sanctuary for me to find my truth. And I also use books to illustrate daily readings, if you like. The Daily Reflections book, which is an AA book with one-day readings. For February, it tends to concentrate on step 2, just a bit like I'm trying to do with my videos. So for February 3, it says, filling the void. We needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? As soon as a man can say that he does believe, or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure him that he is on the right way. He is on his way. AA's Big Book, page 47. I was always fascinated with the study of scientific principles. I was emotionally and physically distant from people while I pursued absolute knowledge. God and spirituality were meaningless academic exercises. I was a modern man of science. Knowledge was my higher power. Given the right set of equations, life was merely another problem to solve. Yet my inner self was dying from my outer man's solution to life's problems, and the solution was alcohol. In spite of my intelligence, alcohol became my higher power. It was through the unconditional love which emanated from AA people and meetings that I was able to discard alcohol as my higher power. The great void was filled. I was no longer lonely and apart from life. I had found true power greater than myself. I had found God's love. There is only one equation which really matters to me now. God is in AA. Now, for me that is great, because it means that my understanding of truth and my understanding of spiritual is in the here and now, with less denials and less filters. I mean, you know, it's not hard to be spiritual if you know the truth. And that's just what I've learned over the years. It's taken me a long time to get there, because denial, filters, wanting it my way, my self-will, or obsession about drink, my obsession about people, putting people on pedestals and then somehow knocking them off when they weren't able to do what I wanted them to do. It's very easy to get into a place of dishonesty. And really what the program does is focus on open, honest and willing living. Open, honest and willing to make life work with the truth in the spirit of now. So that's not so hard for me, but it's taken a few years to come to the understanding that I'm not a higher power than anybody else, and we are all equal in our gift of living. And on page 17 of this one, the As Bill Sees It, co-founder of AA, daily reading if you like, toward honesty. The perverse wish to hide a bad motive underneath a good one permeates human affairs from top to bottom. This subtle and elusive kind of self-righteousness can underlie the smallest act or thought. Learning daily to spot, admit and correct these flaws is the essence of character building and good living. The deception of others is nearly always rooted in the deception of ourselves. Somehow being alone with God doesn't seem as embarrassing as facing up to another person. Until we actually sit down and talk aloud about what we have so long hidden, our willingness to clean house is still largely theoretical. When we are honest with another person, it confirms that we've been honest with ourselves and with God. And for me, the gift of God is truth. It's the absolute truth. It's not my truth, it's not your truth. It's the truth we often dance around and get dishonest about, because we always have self-will pushing us one way or another. And that can be from our ego or from great esteem. We can only do one thing, that is heal ourselves as we go along. So I'm learning gradually and gently what it is to be in recovery, and it is to live one day at a time, as soberly and carefully as I may, with other people around me, no bigger, no smaller than me. That's my life. I'm living it just one day at a time.